Presenting, folks, all that is left of the yard for which we join bereft. And as this line leads out to diverse roads, so our wreck we've versed in episodes. And by this brick, some will be shtick, some argument, some pompous lyric. We mean to tell how this clay, become bone by our christening to a tonnage buoyant, may keep or give back that life outgrown, however we destroy it. Now, as stadia replace the base industrial, let's rue the new greening of our pastoral. Alas, poor porgy. From training in spring to the classic of fall, our pastime is testament to capital. So, off of the pine, folks. Watch for the sign. We'll run on the pitch to the crack of the bat and see whose home we wind up at.
When I took Jesus to opening day, he queried me, "In war also do the 50,000 clamor to uphold the wealth of the 50? And I could only reply that the rules of war change quicker than the rules of baseball. Then in the 7th, with the Sox down by 1 and everyone half drunk, old Kess made a little perfect leap to turn the double play. Oh, the stands went wild, and loud jokers who were gnarled nonetheless for having never suffered smacked their brothers they would pound an hour later, while their hammered sisters endeared the cold sun to an amniotic buzz. And Jesus gave them all a hand, too, digging the indeterminate moment he wasn't needed save for his noise. Driving northward on the Ryan in the rain, 4 lanes bound up by us grim operators who may all as well be accountants like me, channeled into the enshrouded skyline that itself seeks to be totaled again and again, feet to the summit, dollars to build, stories to list, like a bar chart against the gray mist. Then as I hit the rise at 37th Street, I see it, the gash in the right field corner plumb down to the warning track. Like the saber splitting the loaf on the Moscow stage, the iceberg's wound below the Titanic's waterline, the guillotine to the mistaken, untitled neck, as if the blade stroke that decapitates could decapitalize also into a sweet poverty of memory. Look, you can see into the park from the outside, clear through to the opposite grandstand, the grass growing untended, all too green in this not yet spring. How by a lone crane your hulking privacy is breached, as you always kept your heart unknown to the public glances on the passerby street. You kept everything within, noise and color, stench and anger. Nothing was next door to you, nothing was neighbor. You abided no outside looking in. Not then. To make your date, we had to buy a ticket. We had to pay the price. You only did it with us behind closed gates. And now look at you. You're wide open, old vaudevillian, too old to sue now that they've broadcast your diaries. That first blow was the Negro Corner, their self-chosen back of the bus even after Selma and Rosa Parks, cooled in the umbra of the upper deck where I hung as a kid to hear they talk, slang being the thing, grease and spice glued to the tongue with tobacco juice. and the relentless two-syllable mantra I later learned was signifying sweet to no one's mother. In Comiskey II, the only sector of the poor is that queue of day labor scavengers waiting in the windowless shank of the park for the game to end and go to work. Just as a high pop fly was hit, a coronary struck a fan at the park. 'Twas ruled an error when he dropped his body while the ball reached the top of its arc. So wherever he also descended, in paradise, limbo, or hell, he was caught in a glove one-handed by a hot-dogging free agent angel. Like Robespierre at the chopping block remarking, "Well, this ought to rid me of my paranoia," the undoing erases the worst that was done as the first of the Skyboxes doubles over to the bludgeon. They upholstered a horseshoe, hung it from the roof, to shelter the new Brahmins with money enough, gave them waiters and heaters to keep them soothed, so the spoiled fingers of these proud self-improved could pour peanuts and wine on the patrons beneath. Kiss goodbye to the Bards room, named for the poet that old Commie quoted to repulse the plaints of the unlearned, and where later the peg-leg lecturer of wonder, who never met a table high enough to put him under, declared, "Lear's greater than Hamlet, but try telling a young man that." And when, like a nightclub in reverse, the maitre d' would darken you the door after a victory if you appeared sincere enough or unmoneyed. There's the last ballpark you could loop-de-loop, draw the inside round, tunnel, orbit the mound. Dig the grand tour of the dirty bazaar, its grottos dark even on midsummer day, immured from the greensward, underworld apart. Come, let's trek this subway like the catacombs through the circle of religions. Jesuits kneeling at the taco stand, Baptists milling by the piss ravines, the Manichaeists calling balls and strikes, Zarathustrans tilting the pinball machines, Catholics lined up for ambrosia and relief, Semites loading kosher dogs with green relish, the Quakers below the bleachers drunk on virtue, Satanists at the lockup swearing we won't hurt you, Buddhists grabbing a quick smoke from the distant cycle of roar and breath, Calvinists purchasing souvenirs for the afterlife. Oh, you had so many shadows. Confessionals of shadows, apses and naves and buttresses of shadows, spots where our muddy organs lurked while our light heads butted with other light heads above. Forget the safety of the bone-white bases. You gave us scores of damp hiding places where, fresh from the rounds of our little murders, we found a purpose for the poles and girders, learned the value of obstructed view. If you couldn't see cops, they couldn't see you. So sip on a half pint, light up some reefer. Grab that girl where your hand won't leave her. Now, the architects of the vault just south made sure to leave the shadows out, all gleaming like new plumbing. So it'll take some time to model that concourse with bogs of grime that slide us crosswise as we exit. To the end of the night, our new route takes us. Today's special, the class sandwich. Check the new order. It's a sandwich of classes, where thems with the cabbage can park their asses. Here the decks of a vessel are replaced by levels, and dutiful pleasures sweep out our revels. On the cordial slope nearest the plate, the Arrivistes now take their seats. Above, the crusaders of the blessed spreadsheet converse in the glassed-in luxury suites, where those most fattened by America's manna talk shop with their backs to the Star-Spangled Banner. In the limited sky, in the top crow's nest, more like a crasher than a guest, too removed from the rhythms to have them matter, isolate as the eternal on-deck batter, sit the fair to middling, their humble thumbs twiddling. And where, may you ask, is the lower class? Look no further than the railroad underpass, where hard by the empty delivery trucks, they'll peddle you a shirt that says, Oakland sucks. Too keen for the sale to be politically pissed, still unable to finger their antagonist. Toasted on the bottom, burnt on the top, this bread that began bleached bone white. In the middle, 3 layers of red meat. So tell me, my little stackers of wheat, wouldn't you like to take a bite? Let me tell you the story of the man who ate Comiskey, a cop by day, by night a glutton. His face couldn't see his belly button. Ice cream, hot dogs, popcorn, nachos. Twice a game, he ate all of those. Never said a word, neither cheered nor booed, though he owned 4 seats for every game day. 1 for his son, 1 for the lady, and beside himself, a season ticket for his food. The bill of fare was so varied at Sox that his appetite lost all prudence. By June, he filled an entire golden box. Soon there was no room for the straight-A students. At season's end, he'd grown so weighty, they couldn't move him out of his stall. So when the bulldozers came to the barred door, Katie, they hired him on as the wrecking ball. Every once or twice a summer, it would come back, the smell that had no source since 1960 when Armour, the last big butcherer, moved out. Nothing left of the Stockyards then but storehouses and a prairie, an arch without a gate, an amphitheater waiting for a riot. But the smell we'd grown up to, hemoglobin, terror, and rot, that would come back and on a rare night would waft over Canaryville through the Celtic ghetto backyards to Bridgeport and points north. Out-of-towners would ask us, filing from the game, does it always stink like this here? And we said, no, enjoy it while you can. And even the vegetarian flyboys among us would suspire that ether, our open-air opium den, rancid and sweet, pounding like a sow escapee up Halsted Street. But this year it didn't return, though we, like the sons of Audubon peering the sky for a last whooping crane, waited in vain after midnight in the outdoor bars amid the usual whiffs of sausage, exhaust, and bobtailed lawns. I love the smell of the Stockyards in the evening. You come home, crack a beer, supper's ready, but that smell, that slaughterhouse smell, smells like Comiskey. She was hot. Leslie was so hot, all the boys in our upper berth drank like men to behave like boys. It got so steamy up there, we had to be hosed down with beer. So why did she, heiress to a fortune, the flame of box 234, buy a season ticket in 1980? For what reason? To find a husband? Nah, she wanted to drive the uncouth out of her system, then retreat to the country, marry a member of the landed gentry. None of us who dug her was as hot as Leslie. She didn't have to fork for a drink the whole year, and all the crap we lay on others she turned to sugar. A lot of fouls, but none of us wound up in her lap. Blonde as the lit end of a candle, she liked to caress, but not to fondle. Loved to kiss, but beyond had not the gall. Ah, hell, she had a crush on Jimmy Pearsall. Not far inside, her heart was waxed and polished. Today, the place you sat has been demolished. And now I see you that late September afternoon, with the early leaves and the wiener wrappers swirling about, we, your quelled admirers, sitting aloof. Your legs crossed luxurious in the cold gray air. Your last day there, and the last year before, the sport became dollars uberalis, the end of our 20s, terminus youth. Long gone the old lingo, the kinder hecklers crowding the box in the time before flash montage spat current into the hurled voice.
Slip him the sucker pitch, Seacott.
I am the ball, Buck.
Joe, you're a bum and a boozer and a two-bit whore.
Hey, Four Eyes, you're blind, Gump. Teddy Boy hit the guy in the eye with an Eskimo pie.
How's about a loud foul for the little lady, look?
Fish is shaking in his shoes now. Send him to the Who Scout.
Give me a bingle, Jungle Jim.
Go! Go! Louie, go!
Comb his hair, Gus. Brush him back.
And there's another White Owl wallop.
That's who ain't Nelly. Attaboy.
Wear a glove, Bubba.
Hey, Stanky. Are you asleep in there?
Oh, for the long one. Let's go to Milwaukee and get lucky, all right. Howdy, tell you the truth. Howdy, tell you the truth.
Now, from 40,000 monitors, the program spills to neuter the yells for the Phanometer and the dashes of those dots. Blips across the screen in lieu of stars. Hear the blunt, quick bite of these proud ingrates.
Perez, you suck.
Canseco, you're a tookus kisser.
Hey, get a life, schmuckface.
Scratch off your remaining list, the station of the Organist, where weird stool pigeons banded by Riff flew bottomless from Nancy's nest. Belle of the ballpark, full moon star, she played the world's biggest piano bar, could pump jumpin' jack flash full of schmaltz, and knew the national anthem is really a waltz. Où sont les neiges downtown, baby? Francois Villon, original right fielder. Do you remember the sunsets of this summer past? Sharp as a scalpel, the indigos and reds spread artful at the vagaries of wound and blood. Dust from the clash a hemisphere removed held sway in our atmosphere, played with sun rays as the earth whirled east. Over your doomed high eaves, a tombstone from the war zone, the engineers of the housing projects and the poets of IIT marked from their rooftops the nightly show, while below, overgrown flora bounded in the outfield like wild peonies after the bombing of Hiroshima. Last chance to germinate before the soil is paved over. What is so dark as the silhouette of a home that will not again be lit from within? The Shoeshine Parlor is kaput. Place where you could stick your foot. Place a black man could spit where a white man stepped. Work in the juice and expect to be tipped. But then not even kingpins wore wingtips there. Not since the era of Mayor Daily Pear. It's a new breed of dog this culture admires. Now fans don't wear shoes, they wear tires. Yet once a month, the Shiners got the chance to buff someone's hide. Not for one of the guys, but a modern woman wearing leather pants who wanted them glossed to the top of her thighs. Like McCutcheon's Injun summer felled by correct politic after a century, the hawks of gone vendors roll in the air where the long aisles were. Griff, grizzled like Chet Baker, chastened by AA, turned Quaker.
Bottle of beer, I don't want a beer, who wants a beer?
The Borden's malt guy with the black patch on his eye. Here's Captain Frosty, the old sea salt. It's only a quarter for a Frosty malt. Shaver, white-haired retiree from a secret federal agency. His first name was Mr., and when he worked, he whispered, ice cream. Ice cream. Freddie, fierce ex-Marine, a drill instructor as he vended. When he called, he scaled the mountain, then descended. Beer! Bernie, the old road runner, saw no moral incongruity, shortchanged every customer, and said they meant gratuity. Hey, salty peanuts, how many, kid? It's 35 cents for one, take 2 for 85. It's a better deal. Here's your change, now get out of my way. Hey, salty peanuts. Maury, the old man who took up his trade in the Depression because it seemed so romantic, when the blue air all day and $2 commission would make your night at the honky-tonk.
Moses spent 40 years in the desert. Well, I spent 40 in the ballpark. And now that I'm ready to lead, I've got no teeth. My only tablet is my aspirin. My only gospel is my gasping. And I alone will ever hear this heart beat.
Helpy. He could convince the chaff it was wheat. He gave you the biz when he gave you his word by a bargain hot-wired from Maxwell Street. Drink, Goyim, drink! What do you think you're here for? Sticking out halfway down the left field upper deck, like the guts of a doughboy tramping painless in shock, is the ladies' lounge. But look, all the fixtures are still in place, and the mirrors. Soft paper spills from the stall dispensers. Partitions shudder to the airborne shovel. Oh, the men of the Speedway wrecking crew were brought up well. They knew from how the nuns drummed them in school. You never go into what belongs to a woman till you're ready to take her down to your level. Rough boys, their hardened mitts didn't dare to touch where a woman sits. No, they reserved that intimacy for their loving machinery. Why didn't they drop you all at once with dynamite like a dowager hotel in a dead resort town? Blow you apart for the cameras and the news at night, a quickie, a nooner, all drang and sturm. Instead, you went down the way Veeck went down, cell by cell, but contra the norm. Bill, wounded at Bougainville, where gangrene took the foot first, then the leg, chopped upward in pieces in surgeons' offices, the vascular grid worn down, hair at ebb, the lungs shot from smoke and laughter, kidneys beat up, the pump a clatter from tardy valves so that when you died, and they sounded Copeland's fanfare at your funeral, there was so little stuff of you remaining, though you'd grown more smashing as your body unraveled, leaving open trails to the soul, your flame forever by desire fueled. And you, Comiskey, when they ripped you down, they plowed around the bases the wrong way, from first to home to third, following the path of the clock, but not the timeless circuit of feet sprinting opposite to the way a book is read, left to right, to its end. Kiss goodbye, you sentiment haters, to the left field stands that caught 8,000 taters, most of them hit by the visitors. Yet the ramp heading to the upper deck from center field is still intact. It leads to nowhere but the vacuumed air, because when all the South Side factories fled, they removed the pollution and the Democrats. And if we could get up there on that catwalk, I'll bet we could step right off, like in a cartoon, and keep on stepping up that stairway of Led Zeppelin through the ghost rows of the cheap seat altitudes, home to the stoned and plow-faced chicks and dudes, till we made the mistake of looking down. Since looking back is always easier for the acrophobe advancing with amnesia. August 22nd, in the middle of the night, with only right field and the bleachers still unsunk, we went back in. The lone sentry blew his post to the dock's grill for 3 a.m. lunch, so we had to go in. Climbed the fence, hopped through the concrete meteors in center, pierced the hull through the bullpen door. Pitch blend carbon fossil air, stool and debris on the floor. We howled up the last corridor, calling for an echo, but the dust swallowed whatever came out of us. We were stinkflies camped a while in a mastodon's ear. Had to give it the last party, we, ragged and frivolous to the end, throw it an old world wake atop the body. Then we drove all night in our oiled black cars to honor the homeland of the dinosaurs. We're still going back in. You got what we want for ourselves. 80 years in the pond, a sun to bask in, regular rest and lots of action toward a weathered cadaver and an open casket. Now you're ground into a parking lot, level as the passions of the well-intentioned. So will we too be brought to a flat surface for our children and beyond to move their vehicles across, barely mention, thinking occasionally of us as one harks back to a dream that made no sense. How many Sox fans does it take to change a light bulb? Well, I'll tell you, 1/2. Why? Because they're half lit already. Come every September, as the season winds down, you begin to spot them. Usually they sit by themselves in the expanses that appear when the team fades from the race. You notice them because their attention is so acute. They gaze in every direction, their ears are keen, they inhale all the way. To others, they talk very little. They don't want to miss a thing. For them, even this slow game is happening all at once. They are the ones who are dying of cancer or a corroded pump or diseases of the brain. They know they won't last the winter. When next opening day rolls around, they'll reside within that ground the young players lope across. This is their last game. Approach them lightly. They aren't like the others. They don't need to revel and abuse anyone's body. They are getting drunk by other means. They are getting ready. That's what the last day was like, 30th September 1990, except that there were 40,000 of the dying, half buried, half lifted in the turvy-topsy rapture. As some had died here, you saw the besotted ledge dancer pitching to the deck below. We saw the slob choking on a red-hot stuck widthwise in his trachea. I saw the cardiac flaying the air as his center unhinged. It was within you that as a kid I first knew my father was dying. He clutched the ramp rail, gasping and ashamed as I watched. And I knew then you weren't really a refuge as so many wanted you to be, because the ferocity of life stays fierce in the escape. Hell, we were neither saints nor exquisite contemplators, nor the proletariat's proud Mad Hatters. We're at best Pandora's pinch batters, pet hamsters at worst in the rat race. We filled your halls with jerks carousing and drowsing in our own game face, but jerks the same as in any church. For there were schmuck priests peeing in the pyramids, idiot druids drinking mead by the plinths at Stonehenge, Jeloni oracles vomiting in their skybox at Delphi, moonbeam monks cruising the aisles at the Cathedral of Chartres, joking about the Great Schism, doofus Incan shaman trading gossip in the temple at Machu Picchu, goof yogis belching gas through the echelons of consciousness. While emperors blundered through our history, jerks donned the new rags of normalcy, fought the wars, built the bridges, at the mouth of death, dug the ditches, drank to the crownings of tragedy. But the maudlin was built into this diamond, and on the last day, while no martyrs strode unsullied out of the cornfield, you held our field of collars in review. Blue, white, clerical, paint. And then we should have strode, jerks to the kill, straight into the paddy wagons that swung their doors wide in invitation. Come on in, folks. Take your public trust to jail. Should have poured right in and let the sirens squeal and let them wheel us out of you for good. Well now, boys, a bit belatedly, I offer up my RSVP. To the Ein of Horn and the Dorf of Rhines, you can kiss our stout behinds. On second thought, give that a pass. Want no smell of money on my ass. Tommy Hounahan was the name of the man, born in the year this dive was built, before the game became a tournament of gelt. And though he loved every bleary hour here in the grand outdoors and the fellowship of beer, the park's better off now, he confessed. Much like me dear wife, may she rest. She is much better in me recollection than she ever was upon close inspection. 200 springs ago, a Potawatomi youth paused at a knot in the prairie where shields would cross 35th, where wild onions the size of baseballs grew. He gazed east and north at a wedge of birds gliding over the grasses newly thawed, and imagined the flock not winging and alighting, but being tossed in the air, then caught by the sporting earth gods. 80 Aprils that a mortal Indian has returned, each time his view of the sky blocked by a house protecting an abstract of natural process, a ring of figures looking, as to a fire, inward. Today he approaches that corner the way a dam approaches a river. But the bowl of air curls with tenderness over his eyes. They close, and southbound geese dip above his body interred with the outfield fence. Sometimes even death must fight through impediments. Viewing the two parks next to each other, only a sap would say son and mother. But a flat top moored beside a frigate, that's the way Roger Angell put it. Earth receive an honored guest. Comiskey Park is laid to rest after 80 years put under arrest, put under cover of onion dust. I've addressed this house as you or thee, or even seamen didn't call it she, but inspirited by what or whom? A veritable you are in this room. For the church is burned, the ideology whipped, our bodily partner hurtles toward its crypt. To all structures, leave us bid Godspeed. Some congregations outlive their creed. And who will be the last of us, 50, 60 summers hence, to die and leave this edifice lost without remembrance? Give yourselves a round of applause, and a round or several of ale. This ship Comiskey carries us into the past under full sail.
disco demolition night, I arrived to work. I knew something was funny when I saw people coming into the park and everyone had on a black t-shirt with Megadeth and Death to Disco. They didn't look like your ordinary Sox fan. That's when I knew something was funny. Then the second game, we took a load of beer out. They said, no more beer. I went out. I seen all these kids running on the field. The Tigers were running off the field. Most unbelievable thing you'll ever see.
I have a disco sex belt buckle.
A what?